I gotta say, I love following all the pulp web people that I do because I find our differences in wheelhouse, preferences invaluable. Because man, Mr. Misha always gives me something to think about. No, no matter what happens, he always gives me stuff to think about. Whether it's like the chosen one tropes or the different kinds of narrative or suspension of disbelief or even the narrative tension. Because I do realize I am in the minority where a lot of people want to experience a book where they don't know if people are on the chopping block or not. That the characters are in mortal danger in that way. But I, again, am more in the school of how will they succeed, which is the reason why I'll link Mr. Rick Spoor's books below. He has more of a writing kind of setup in terms of mindset for the characters that I find myself gravitating towards. Now, certain things can overlap. Like I've read stuff, with Yakov's Galaxy Ascendant, Galaxy's Edge, where there is a chance that characters can bite the bullet and everything. But just like Harrington, Yakov's stuff is definitely on the much more hopeful side. Like that ending was well done, well done. And you know what? Eventually, for the channel, I'm gonna try to go into deeper dives on certain subversive tropes versus superversive stuff, and because sometimes there's certain subversive stuff that does it well because they remember a very important aspect is to reconstruct. To use a visual example, Megamind, the movie Megamind, the guy was set up to be the villain, but in his heart he wanted to be the hero, like a legitimate hero, not like a villain with a heart of gold or some weirdness like that. It's just that nowadays a lot of things don't know how to rebuild. CJ knows how to rebuild stuff. He does that in a lot of his series, whether it's the Lit RPG Eternal Journey stuff, or his new Olympus saga, or his Warp Marines. And Warp Marines is definitely more of a grittier take on stuff, but I've gotten to the point where I pretty much trust 95% of the stuff that CJ writes. So I'll also link CJ's books below, with the Galaxy's Ascendant and, Galaxy's Edge. I'll also link that because I might as well promote indies while I'm jabbering away. And it just comes down to no matter what, every reader is going to have a certain subset of what kind of preferences will overlap. That's why I call stuff wheelhouses, because some people gravitate towards more wheelhouses than others. And sometimes I think that's the reason why certain kinds of movements within entertainment take more hold, because a lot of the pulp cult stuff takes the mainstream and pulls normies towards whatever they want. Because outside social media, the internet, and everything else, when I talk about half this junk with I know I shouldn't say junk, but like overall this kind of subset of things that I'm interested in. Even my brother, he's very much a normie when it comes to entertainment stuff or books and games and things like that. But he's a specialist when it comes to certain kinds of army officer political, maneuvering, and he hates it with a passion. So, there you go. So I honestly want to say the teal deer of all of this is, no matter what you do as a writer, there's just certain things that will kick a reader out of your story. It's all just based on the wheelhouse preferences. Are they a reader that is looking for the tension of anybody can die at any time versus the assurances that the hero or their allies will win? Regardless of outcome, and if those characters have plot armor or not. Because I don't mind plot armor on characters. It's never really bothered me. But for certain readers and other writers, it will bother them. It'll end up kicking them out of the story just as fast as, say, J.R.R. Martin kicks me out of any story he writes. It's just the overall what kind of preferences do you have, and certain preferences will overlap a whole lot more. Will get more of mainstream traction. But for me, especially with me trying to develop how I want to write and my own methods, it's been invaluable working on a story that is basically catering to myself 100%. You'll learn good writing habits and even processing habits by writing something every day. So my first big venture is a pure passion project. I'm investing in it myself for the most part. Some people have tipped through the tip jar, but like I've said before, everything that I get from the tip jar will go towards internal art for Uplift Protocol. 100%. But yeah, I know probably Uplift Protocol won't appeal to the big old masses, and that's okay. Everything that I'm learning from doing this, I can basically set up to do different things later, even different wheelhouses, because sometimes you have to have a different kind of mindset depending on what kind of things you want to do with your writing. Do you want to be more marketable, or do you want to hit more mainline cylinders? Then you're probably going to have to switch a few things up just to see what is selling like gangbusters versus, maybe what's languishing, whether or not because it's hidden by the search algorithms, or, in the case of all of Amazon stuff, the search algorithm is just basically, wow, I definitely don't want these things, yet it keeps showing up in the results. Why? Because half the time the stuff that shows up in the results has the sponsored tag, and that will override usually most search functions on their website. But at this point, their algorithm has gotten halfway broken, and it's like bizarre world over there. So what else can you expect? But that's about it for me for today. Just a quick little aside about everything. I try to make sure I enjoy myself on Twitter, even if it is a dumpster fire. See you later, everybody.